C.S. Lewis, born Clive Staples Lewis, is one of the most famous and influential modern-day Christian converts. Although he is most famous for being a Christian writer and writing books such as the Chronicles of Narnia, Mere Christianity, the Screwtape Letters, and countless others, Lewis lived a lot of his life as a non-believer. This is because he faced many hardships in his early life that made it difficult for him to believe there was a good God out there. C.S. Lewis was born in 1898, the youngest of two sons to Florence and Albert Lewis. Lewis grew up Protestant and attended church regularly. He and his older brother Warren were very close, and he had a relatively normal childhood. But all of that changed when Lewis was 9 years old and his mother died from cancer, and thus ended his happy childhood. The death of his mother started the initial disbelief that a good and loving God could exist. After the death of Lewis's mom, he stated that there were now only islands of joy in the midst of an unsettled sea. Once his mother died, his family became broken. He and his brother grew apart, and Lewis in turn isolated himself. His father also never fully recovered from the death of his wife and became distant as well. His father ultimately sent Lewis and his brother to boarding school, and this event started C.S. Lewis's atheist phase. In boarding school, C.S. Lewis tried very briefly to continue going to church and praying, but eventually stopped completely because he felt he could not pray correctly. At age 18, Lewis was already a committed and thorough atheist, even writing to his friend Arthur Greeves that he believes in no religion, that there is absolutely no proof for any of them, and from a philosophical standpoint, Christianity is not even the best. Even though Lewis was an atheist, he found it hard to hold on to his beliefs, or lack thereof. Lewis found that his foundation to atheism was anything but solid. Lewis saw that there were many problems that he was faced with that actually undermined his beliefs, such as the beauty of nature and art and the gift of joy. In Lewis's opinion, it was a lot harder to be an atheist than a Christian, because a young man who wished to remain a young atheist cannot be too careful with his readings. There are traps everywhere, Bibles laid open with millions of surprises. But even the beauty of the earth was enough for Lewis to ignore for a little while. It was not until 1929 where the cracks of Lewis's atheist armor began to show through. Lewis was reading The Everlasting Man by G.K. Chesterton while riding on a bus to Oxford late at night. While reading The Everlasting Man on the bus, he began to feel a tug on his heart. He felt as if he was holding something at bay or shutting something out, and in that moment, Lewis knew he had to let God into his life and admit that God was God. At that moment, he described himself as the most dejected and reluctant convert in the world. When he finally admitted there was a God, he could not even compare himself to the prodigal son, because Lewis states that the prodigal son at least walked home on his own feet, but Lewis, on the other hand, was brought in, kicking, struggling, resentful, and darting his eyes in every direction for a chance to escape. But Lewis's story does not end there, and even though he had accepted that God was real, it was not until his conversation with J.R.R. Tolkien 2 years after that night on the bus in Oxford that he accepted the Lord as his Savior. Lewis and Tolkien were very close friends and had already had multiple conversations about Christianity. But on September 19, 1931, they had a conversation that started the night of September 19th and did not end until the morning of September 20th. The discussion questioned Lewis's beliefs, but even that conversation had to be meditated on before Lewis truly committed to Christianity. A couple days later, while he was on his way to the zoo with his brother Warren, he made the official commitment to Christianity, and he credits that to the long conversation that he had with Tolkien on the night of September 19th. So that day, on his way to the zoo, he accepted Christ as his Savior. Lewis dates his official conversion to Christianity on September 22nd, 1931, and he would later become a member of the Church of England, much to Tolkien's dismay, who wished that he convert to Catholicism. Even though Lewis's conversion was a long process that had many series of events, it ultimately led him to revoke his atheist beliefs. Although Lewis had a long transition back into Christianity, it was beneficial for him because that allowed him to be thoroughly converted. In the end, there was no doubt in his mind that he had made the right decision.